Ja, bei Ihnen braucht eine Uhr, ja, weil wir wollen ja das einteilen. Ja, vielleicht ganz kurz, Frau Zaeri ist geflüchtet
fled from Iran in the 1980s. They were a six-headed family, and their flight took 14 months. 5 years later, after 5 years, the asylum was granted to them, and she got a German passport. She was born in 1974 in Iran. And back in time, you traveled through the German Democratic Republic. You've grown up in Heidelberg, and this is also where you made your Abitur. And you then studied social sciences in Freiburg. You got your diploma there. And I could say so many more things about you, because there are probably just a few people in Germany that are that competent when it comes to dealing with the fate of migrants or of refugees in Germany. Your studies and also your background, your origin, and also your residence here, they qualify you for that, of course. You're working now for the municipalities, for the reception and the integration of refugees. And this is exactly what I guess where we will need even more people. Yes, that is true, of course. My professional development also has a lot to do with my development as an author, as a writer, because indeed after the Abitur I started to study social sciences, because there was nothing else for me. It was the only possibility for me to do something, to study social sciences. I worked as a social worker, and I specialized then in working with adolescents in certain municipalities. But directly after my studies, I just graduated from university. I got my first job, and that in working with refugees. So no matter where I applied, I got a call back. Yes, we read your application, but we wanted to ask if you wanted to work with refugees, and that is how I got into it. And I've been doing that now for 12 years. I also worked in a child's home for unaccompanied minors, children that arrive here without their parents, that try to set up a new life here. So I've been working in different areas, in education, at schools, how to improve the work with parents, with migrant parents. And then at some point something happened inside of me, really. That was during a pregnancy, and all of a sudden I adopted the symptoms of the refugees. I had specialized or focused on traumatized refugees, and I felt those symptoms of traumatization in myself, which was really scaring me at that time. There's a lot of literature about that topic now, that traumatization also can be adopted by their helpers, by their aides. And I knew that I had to get out of the active work with refugees, in which I had to deal directly with the refugees. I had to get out of that. It didn't work for me anymore. So first up I had the child, and I had some time to reconsider things. And all of a sudden I got into the profession that I was only consulting the helpers. I'm advising the mayors and the voluntary circles that are helping refugees. I do coachings, trainings, seminars. I present, I do mediation in conflicts, but I do not work anymore with refugees directly. So at that time, when something happened with me, I somehow noticed that for many years I had been writing down the stories of the refugees. So there were many lawyers that knew about me writing down the stories of the refugees, and they kept sending refugees that kept telling me their story, and I sat down to write down their stories. And with those written words, we often managed to let hopeless cases survive, and also to reach something in front of judges, for example. I noticed that with my words I can reach something, and all of a sudden something inside of me started screaming, and it told me, you have to write down your own story, which was unbelievable to me. I was very irritated and confused at that point. At the same time, an agent approached me through my brother. He, by the way, is a very well-known illustrator who also illustrated the book. And through him, I met this agent, and she was definitely believing in me. She read my text, and she didn't let go of me anymore. And I said, I do not have the time to do that. Just the word author or writer, to use that word for myself was impossible for me. I felt ashamed. I had so much respect. I had been reading books like crazy since I've come to Germany until today, and it kind of felt impossible for me to become a writer myself. And then that was my 7-year-old son at that time. I told him, no, I cannot become a writer. And he came to me and said, Mama, you know what? You don't become a writer. You are a writer. You just have to be a writer. And that's something. I asked him, how do you know? And he said, well, I heard that. And that was the point when I felt like, okay, I won't reject that anymore. I will start writing things down. So I started to write, and this is how this story came to pass. This is a book that will be published by the Peter Hammer Verlag. It's an autobiographic story. I was just telling the story of the revolution that I experienced as a 5-year-old girl on the shoulders of my father. There was a new leader coming to Iran then, the new spiritual leader, and with him came cruelty, violence and war, dictatorship as well at school. The children always had to lie to basically save our parents. They always wanted us to denunciate at school. We always had to be careful because we couldn't trust anyone. We didn't know who could be a spy, possibly even within the family. So literature is something that children back then couldn't use. So Mehrnousch, my older brother, at the age of 14 was supposed to go to the army, and that meant for him there was a law that said that young men were not allowed anymore to leave Iran. And that was the moment when my father said, we leave now, all together, with all of the sons, he had been sending all of his sons alone before, and they didn't manage to make their lives there in Europe. So he said, we will leave now as long as your older brother is still allowed to leave. So this is what we did. We left with just one suitcase, and we were on our way for 14 months. I wrote down the story in this book, and also about the arriving to Germany the first 6 months here. It is a theater play. The book is existing already. It is a theater play. It is played in Heidelberg at the Young Theater there. It starts there in October 2015. It's a huge success. And what will happen on stage is something that you really experienced yourself, that you went through yourself. Something you wrote down in this book. Could you maybe tell us something about the relation between the theater play, the stage play, and the book? Well, on stage, basically, Actually, every event is sold out already. In the theater, something happened there as well. The actors, they were rehearsing for and working for 1 year together with our family, with all of the family, with my mother, my 3 sisters and brothers, my father. We all went there and got to know the actors. And between the lines that I had been writing, they were reading things that I hadn't written, that were unutterable to me and something that I couldn't write down. They read it from what they read, and they started uttering it on stage. So the actors actually interpret, of course, a lot into what they are playing, which was very healing to me. We were sitting together, just like we're sitting here together with an open audience. We couldn't believe what was happening there. They used our original first names. They were playing in such a good way. They really got into this. They thought into this, felt into this. And for us, for our parents, it was a very healing experience. Things have been uttered there that haven't been said for 30 years, that maybe we had already forgotten about, because directly after arriving we started integrating ourselves. Our father always said, what is over is over. Now here we have to integrate ourselves so that the Germans don't send us away. We want to stay here, and we were very much very dedicated to integrating ourselves, and we managed very well. But with this, we also forgot about mourning. We didn't do that. But there was always something. It remained something. And by writing, something came out of me. It was important to me as well. I always said, it doesn't have to be a book. I just keep writing things down. But I want as many people to read it as possible. But it doesn't have to be a book. I didn't really have the intention to write a book. And then it went on stage. Yes, that's what happened. And these things were uttered, they were said, and they are no longer that difficult anymore. Things have become much less difficult, actually. What would you say? Is that the quality of this undisciplined literature? Yes, completely undisciplined, actually. There is one scene that is part of my 2 books when my hair was cut in the night before I went to school for the first time. In Iran, you were wearing scarves. Of course, they were. You had to wear a scarf there. And the night before I went to school for the first time, my mom told me that I had to cut my hair because my hair was very, very long, so that I was able to wear a scarf. And she wasn't able to put all of my hair underneath that scarf, and I didn't want to, so she did secretly, without warning me before. And I was the only girl in the whole family. I had about 100 cousins and 2 older brothers, and I was the first girl in the whole family. And this long hair and my nice shoes, they were that important to me, because it was the only thing for me to differentiate myself against my brothers, and to defend myself as well. And nobody knew about that secret, of course, and that secret was just taken from me, was cut away without telling me before. So this was a deep cut for me, and it really took 30 years. It's been working for 30 years inside of me. I didn't state that at no point, and I wrote it down in the book. And during the rehearsal, the director told the actors, you know what, I got the hair, I ordered the hair, and we can try and do this cut-off scene on stage. And it was something that holy to me. It had been holy for me. And I thought, oh my God, nobody noticed in here, and nobody noticed how important that was to me. And then I all of a sudden felt myself, well, that actually is a very funny scene, and I didn't feel that uncomfortable about me anymore. So it became kind of a slogan in my family, the cutting scene. So we noticed that it is doing good to us to talk about that, and to talk about it without discipline. It was very good. So please don't wonder, I'm coming from a narrative culture, as you might notice. So the grandma, when you visit your grandma, she told us, well, sit down, I'll tell you something. And then she started telling you things for about 3 hours. That's what we did when we came to Germany. We had a very old neighbor here. She never got any visits. She was always lonely at home. And once in the evening, she came over to us. We didn't really speak much of German, and she had a bottle of water, and she asked us to open the bottle of water because she couldn't herself. And so our children then afterwards went over to her at night and opened her 2 bottles of water for the next day, and it felt natural for us children. We had grown up that way. We never said, I don't want to do that. It was natural. And so that grandma kept telling us things for about 1 or 2 hours. We didn't understand a word because we didn't speak any German, but it was good. It was good for her, of course, for not being lonely, and it was good for us because somebody was telling us something, just like we used to know it from Iran. And this is also why I like to tell stories, why I like to narrate. I love books. My children and I, we can't live without books, but I like telling stories. They sometimes come to me saying, Mommy, tell us something, tell us a story. My husband's German, and he keeps saying, well, but how? What is she supposed to tell you? And I say, let me just do things. I know what they want. So maybe I would like to stay here or to tell a story here as well, and then maybe read a couple of things at the end. But it is also about the book, of course. This is what we're here for. Yes, but das Mondmädchen cannot be understood if you don't know the story beforehand. So it is somewhat autobiographical as well. Yes, it is. So stylistically, you move in new ways. Actually, it's almost fantasy, because the girl has secret powers. She doesn't know at the beginning, but when you start reading it, when you start going through the text, you start to notice that there's a lot of yourself in there as well, even if you try to distract things and to disguise things. But there's your life in there as well. You tell your life in there, the way that that people like to read it today. Right? It's a book for children at about 8 years. So stylistically, what would you say? What is different between this book and the stage play? Well, both books or both works are written in pictures, actually, because the Persian language is a very imagery-like language. We speak a lot in pictures and images, and I also used the German text in quite a poetic way. It's important to me. It is very different. It is a different way of writing, of course, than you might be used to. Das Mondmädchen. When I read the book before, the book I mentioned before, the stage play, I went to a lot of readings together with my book, with the illustrator. We went to many schools as well. We answered the questions of the pupils, and I noticed, well, we have to go on. We have to go further. And there's something missing still, and I wanted to describe the story. I wanted to describe the escape in a way how I would have liked the escape to be like. We have to talk about the escape, but in a way how I, as a child, how I had imagined, had wished for this escape to be, which also means that terrible things, of course, have to happen, but fantasy, imagination is there to cover that. There is a swan, for example, that kidnaps people from prison. So these things that I have imagined, that I have been wishing for as a child in my imagination, that are completely crazy, they are happening in this book. And this is how I wrote it. That was my aim. And it had to end. There had to be a happy end. There needs to be a happy end for a children's book. And then I left home. I I went to a hotel, to a conference hotel with very good food. I went there for a week. I locked up myself. I only left my room to have something to eat, and then went back to my room. And something incredible happened, which cannot happen in an autobiography. The figures became self-determined. They had an own life, really. I called my husband every night and I said to him, "Do you know what happened today? The figures started doing what they wanted, and that was unbelievable to me." And he kept asking me, "Why you wrote that yourself? He is so rational, so wonderfully rational." And I said, "No, it happened. It just happened. It's unbelievable." I will go a bit quickly through these pictures now. There is one scene, one chapter actually, one whole chapter in which the family is packing their things. They're packing a suitcase, which is a very important thing in an escape. If you are lucky enough to know before that tomorrow you will be fleeing, you have the possibility to pack your suitcase, to pack a bag. And throughout the whole chapter, they think about what to put into the suitcase. So I'll quote something. What are you packing into a suitcase that is meant for eternity? That's what your mother... Well, this was actually a dream of mine. I wrote down this sentence after dreaming, and I used it 2 days later in my book. So they start packing their things into the suitcase, and in the middle of the story, when this huge swarm is coming to get the family, they lose this suitcase, and I was really mad. I told the figure, what are you thinking about? I worked so much on this, and how are you supposed actually to get back the suitcase? It's completely unrealistic. Of course, they have magic powers, they can fly, but how to get back the suitcase? And the father of the family said, "Why the suitcase? We don't need it." And this story kind of developed in this way. It kept writing itself. It's unbelievable. I kind of lost my red thread in here, but I'll start here. Well, the story is about a girl. She's called Mahtab, which means full moon, or girl of the moon. She grows up in a very wealthy family with a nice garden. It's during revolution times. The mother is afraid and doesn't let the child go to kindergarten. She stays at home until the age of 6 in this garden, and there she becomes a cat mom. She keeps saving cats and kittens that get into life danger. And one day she saves a little kitten from the crows that want to eat it up, and then they find out that the cat can speak, or the little girl can understand the cat, and the cat becomes the company of the little girl. The cat shows up again and again over those 14 months of flight. The cat is always there, and you get to know later on why. This is another cat that got shot, and the father is a surgeon. He gets the cat surgery. One eye stays blind on the cat, but the other eye is still healthy. And the girl takes care of the cat that couldn't survive otherwise. And it's the most terrible thing for her to leave back that cat when they have to flee. So there were about 30 cats that I had in Iran that I was taking care of. My older brother, the owner, was the cat police. He had a helmet that he had as a present, and there was some blue light on it. And whenever something happened, the neighbors called, and he went out as cat police. And this is what I'm describing as well in the book. My children keep asking me, "Tell me something about your cat stories." They're always bad, but my children want to hear them again and again. So here I describe a scene of nightmares. The monsters have entered the room. We all know know that, of course. But in very few books, people talk about that. Writers talk about nightmares and monsters that are not only there for one night, they're beings. And in the middle of that, I notice that my hair is coming out underneath the blanket, and I say, oh God, the monsters will find me now. They can't find me as long as I'm underneath the blanket, but as soon as my hair comes out, they'll find me. These are the fears that I was living with during revolution times, and when the new leader came to power in Iran, and there were also executions in public. That was the nightmares that I got from there. I don't describe that in the book. The children do not need to know why you have nightmares. They just want to know that there are others having nightmares too. And then there is this scene with my hair. My hair is short now. It's cut now, and in the night the girl is completely upset. And in that night, the blue-haired fairy, comes up. Does anybody of you remember the blue-haired fairy? Not many of you. Mothers and fathers my age, they do no longer remember the blue-haired fairy. The fairy has always been there for me. I always wished as a child for her to come and to save me, and that's what I integrated into the book as well. And she comes and has those two swans in her company. They take me, well, not me, of course, the child, but you see, it's all mixing up. They take the child to a country called Athabasca, and the child keeps asking, where is Athabasca actually? She knows that there is consolation and hope, but she never gets there alone. She's picked up for 3 times to get to this country, but she doesn't know how to get there on her own. In Athabasca, she gets to know how to fly. The swan lady teaches her how to fly, and she tells her, you'll need it. And then there is this escape from one day to another. They have to leave. And this is the scene when the family is waiting because they were told by the smugglers that they would come to their front door, and then before the sun rises, that would be the best time, and the family shall stay there and wait. So the family is standing there for the last time in their garden. The sky is completely covered in stars. And the whole garden is full of cat eyes. You see all those lit cat eyes, and you kind of have that bowl of stars, which vanishes when the smuggler's car arrives, and then their trip starts. It's transported. The transporter is completely closed. You don't see anything. You don't see anything from the inside. You can't even see your hand in front of your eyes. Then something wonderful happens. There's the watch. To come back to that picture, the brother of the girl is a very rational brother, not the artist. The other brother is a very rational person. He had bought a watch that is always lit. You can always see the numbers in there, even if there is no sunlight. And now the whole family is very happy to have first up the time, and then also this little light that their eyes can get fixed on this one small point, and they save themselves by just looking at this little watch. So the meaning of a watch for refugees is unbelievable. So then they get to a strange house. I imagined the country's names, although they are not really imagined. I took them from other languages, and if you do a bit of research, you will find out from which languages. So they get there. The mother is no longer there. Her body is still there, but her soul has gone, and their father is gone too, because he's always on his way looking for smugglers, looking for food, so to get along with the family. And the children make friends with a great bunch of doves. The doves kidnap, they don't kidnap, but they take the children to Athabasca. The 3 or 4 children can already fly now, and they meet their grandmother there. This, to me personally, is a very important scene, because in reality, at that time, our grandmother was very sick at that time. She didn't have anyone anymore because the whole family had escaped to some place. I have family in the US, in France, in Sweden, in Switzerland, in Germany, in Belgium, in all parts of Europe. But the old people of our family, they are alone in Iran, and I've noticed that I wished I could meet my grandmother again somewhere, and this is where they meet their grandmother. And I would like to read out this scene. We do not have a translation to this part, so I'll leave you to the original.
Wir hatten schon 20 Nächte in diesem Hotel verbracht. Vater war tagsüber nicht da. Er war mit Mila draußen und sie erledigte Dinge. Mutter war auch nicht da. Ihr Körper schlief zwar in ihrem Bett, aber ihre Seele war verloren gegangen. Wir Kinder gaben uns auch keine Mühe mehr, um nicht aufzuwecken. Wir langweilten uns sehr. Wir mussten stets in diesem engen Zimmer sitzen und warten, bis Vater wieder da war. Uns blieben nur unsere Tauben und die Federn zum Spielen. Nach einigen Wochen konnten wir sogar schon ein paar Tauben wiedererkennen. Eines Morgens wachte ich von Nasanins Weinen auf, die kleine Schwester. Mach dir doch keine Sorgen, sie kommt bald wieder zurück, es ist nichts passiert. Sie hatte nur einen Asthmaanfall. Das hat sie doch schon oft gehabt. Es ist nichts Schlimmes. Shadi tröstete Nasanin. Mutters Bett war leer. Was ist passiert? Fragte ich. Wo ist Mutter? Vater und Milas haben sie mit einem Taxi ins Krankenhaus gebracht. Sie konnte in der Nacht nicht mehr atmen. Sie war schon ganz blau. Vater sagte, wir sollten uns keine Sorgen machen. Sobald er fertig ist, kommt er wieder zu uns. Mutter ist weg, sagte Nasanin. Vielleicht muss sie sterben. Nasanin weinte wieder. Wir trösteten sie. Da hörten wir das aufgeregte Flattern unserer Tauben. Wir rannten zum Fenster und öffneten es. Die Tauben flatterten durcheinander. So aufgeregt hatten wir sie noch nie gesehen. Mitten im schwarz-weißen Geflatter sah ich ein schwarzes Rohr. Shadi musste es auch gesehen haben. Er zeigte mit dem Finger dorthin und sagte, da ist was, da ist noch ein Tier. Es kam auf uns zu. Toulouse, rief Nasanin, also die Katze, die wir gerettet haben. Toulouse kam zum Fenster. Ich hob sie mit beiden Händen hoch und brachte sie ins Zimmer. Toulouse, wo warst du? Ich hatte Angst um dich, fragte ich. Toulouse war sehr schmutzig. Sie hatte am ganzen Körper Kratzer. Sie ist den ganzen langen Weg zu uns gelaufen, sagte Shadi. Ich hol ihr was zu fressen. Er suchte in unserem kleinen Essensvorrat in den durchsichtigen Tüten und fand eine Wurst. Toulouse verschlang sie. Wir gaben ihr noch Wasser. Dann rollte sie sich zusammen und schlief an Ort und Stelle ein. Wir blieben neben ihr sitzen und streichelten sie. Sie schlief sehr lange. Wir aßen ein paar Brote und warteten, bis sie aufwachte. Dann zuckte sie mehrmals mit ihrem Narbenohr. Sie öffnete die Augen und gähnte. Sie machte ihre Vorderpfoten lang und streckte sich. Toulouse, sag doch was, sagte ich. Wo warst du? Immer mit der Ruhe, Kinder, antwortete Toulouse. Mich schickt Kali, die Fee. Ich soll euch nach Athabasca mitnehmen. Nach Athabasca? fragte ich. Aber woher weißt du von Athabasca? Woher kennst du Kali? Wer ist Kali? fragte Shadi, mein Bruder. Was ist hier los? Wohin sollen wir gehen? Ich erkläre euch alles, sagte Toulouse. An dem Tag, als ihr mich vor den Krähen gerettet habt, war ich schon fast gestorben. Noch bevor Shadi mich hochgehoben hatte. Da kam Kali, die Fee mit den blauen Haaren, und nahm mich mit nach Athabasca. Dort wuchs sie meine Wunde mit dem Wasser deiner Quelle Mahtab. Und ich spürte das Leben in meinem Körper zurückkehren. Das Wasser hatte mir eine Fähigkeit verliehen. Ich konnte plötzlich die Menschensprache. Die Fee beauftragte mich, euch nie allein zu lassen. Dann fand ich mich im Hof wieder und bat dich, Mahtab, um Hilfe. Ihr habt mich vor den Krähen gerettet und ich konnte weiterleben. Aber seitdem bin ich keine normale Katze mehr. Ich bin ein Wesen von Athabasca. Shadi hatte nicht alles verstanden, aber er stellte keine Fragen mehr. Ja, bring uns nach Athabasca, bitte, sagte Nazanin. Shadi, schau, was deine Schwestern machen und mach es ihnen einfach nach. Du bist ein außergewöhnlicher Junge. Du schaffst es bestimmt, sagte Philus. Wir kletterten alle aus dem Fenster auf das Dach. Um unsere Beine herum streiften die Tauben, als wären sie Katzen. Nazanin und ich schlossen die Augen. Ich stellte mir die Erde von Athabasca in meinen Füßen vor. Ich spürte das seidige Fühlen und zugleich wärmende Gefühl. Als ich die Augen öffnete, war ich bereits in der Luft. Ich schwebte über dem Hotel und all den grauen Dächern. Da unten waren noch viel mehr Tauben, als ich gedacht hatte. Auch Nazanin hatte schon abgehoben. Shadi hatte den Kopf in den Nacken gelegt und schaute mit offenem Mund zu uns herauf. Philus stand neben ihm und sagte etwas zu ihm. Er schloss die Augen. Ich hatte noch nicht bis 3 gezählt, da hatte er bereits abgehoben. Er öffnete die Augen und stieß einen spitzen Freudenschrei aus. In diesem Moment flatterten alle unsere Tauben hoch. Sie begaben sich in eine riesige V-Formation, wie das sonst nur Zugvögelchen. Folgt den Tauben, rief Philus von unten. Das taten wir. Wir lachten und schrien und flogen den Vögeln hinterher. Ich glaube es nicht, ich fliege wirklich, rief Shadi. Nazanin und ich lachten. Zum ersten Mal blieb ich auf dem Weg nach Athabasca wach. Wir flogen so hoch, dass wir die Wolken erreichten. Sehr lange sahen wir nichts. Wir folgten nur mit den Ohren den Flügelschlägen der Tauben. Dann durchbrachen wir endlich die Wolken und der Himmel klärte sich auf. Und da war Athabasca. Es strahlte im hellen Sonnenschein. Es erstreckte sich unendlich bis zum Horizont. Unsere Tauben landeten auf einem Melonenfeld. Wir flogen weiter. Von hier aus wusste ich, wo meine Quelle lag. Ich zeigte mit dem Arm in die Richtung und sagte, da lang. Ich flog voran, Shadi und Nazanin folgten. Meine Quelle war dort, wo ich sie vermutet hatte. Kali stand daneben und schaute zu uns hinauf. Wir landeten. Ich bin sehr stolz auf euch, sagte Kali. Ich rannte zu ihr und umarmte sie. Shadi und Nazanin schauten sich um. Sie waren verwundert und froh zugleich. Kali lächelte. Sicher wundert ihr euch sehr, was hier passiert. Das ist Athabasca. Mahtab wird euch alles erklären, wenn ihr wieder zurück seid, sagte sie. Kali, warum hast du uns gerufen? Fragte ich. Ich habe hier jemanden, der euch sehen möchte, antwortete Kali. Sie zeigte zu einem Baum, der in voller Blüte stand. Unter dem Baum stand eine kleine Frau mit langen schwarzen Haaren und schwarzer Kleidung. Auf ihrem Rock lächelten tausende kleiner Blümchen. Großmutter, rief Nazanin und rannte auf sie zu. Shadi und ich rannten auch los. Wir lachten laut. Großmutter breitete die Arme aus. Sie umarmte uns einen nach dem anderen und dann alle gleichzeitig. Ihr Körper bebte. Wir hatten keine Worte. Ich drückte meinen Kopf an ihren weichen Bauch und sog ihren Geruch tief ein. Sie roch wie immer. Kinder, wie schön euch zu sehen, das hätte ich nicht mehr geglaubt. Wie schön, sagte sie. Ihre Stimme war auch wie immer. Wieder glaubte man, ihre Stimme gleiche ihr ab. Wir setzten uns an meine Quelle und tranken von deren Wasser. Großmutter, wie bist du hergekommen? Fragte ich. Ipamen, die Schwanendame hat mich mitgenommen. Als ich gehört hatte, dass eure Mutter zusammengebrochen ist, habe ich mir nur noch gewünscht, bei euch zu sein. Und da war plötzlich Heidi da. Ich habe schon immer gewusst, dass es Gott gibt, sagte sie. Großmutter, kommst du jetzt mit uns mit? Fragte Charlie. Nein, meine Kleinen. Ich werde in unser schönes Kaiserreich zurückkehren. Mein Leben ist dort. Aber ich habe euch etwas mitgebracht. Das wird eurer Mutter ihre Seele wieder zurückgeben. Gebt ihr das. Das ist Medizin gegen Heimweh. Sie gab Charlie mehrere kleine Dosen. Wir öffneten die Dosen. Darin waren Gewürze. Sie dufteten nach Zuhause. Charlie steckte sie in die Hosentaschen. Dann lehnte sich Großmutter an den Kirschbaum und wir betteten unsere Köpfe auf ihren Schoß. Die Sonne schien uns ins Gesicht und wärmte uns. Wir schlossen die Augen. Großmutter erzählte uns die Märchen und Geschichten, die wir so sehr liebten. Sie erzählte den ganzen Tag und die ganze Nacht hindurch. Ich hörte ihr zu, ich war weder wach noch im Schlaf. Es war eine Art Traum. Es war, als tauchte ich in ein tiefes, blaues Meer und begegnete dort Großmutters Geschichtenhelden, Taugenichten und Bösewichten. So, Kinder, jetzt habe ich alle Geschichten erzählt, die ich hatte. Geht nach Hause. Eure Mutter braucht euch, sagte sie. Sie stand auf und wir umarmten uns ein letztes Mal. Sie setzte sich auf die Kanne. Die Panne hob ab und flog davon. Wir winkten ihr zu und sie winkte zurück. Wir waren erfüllt von Glück.
Dieser Ausschnitt enthält jetzt
This part that you read out contains a lot of fantasy moments, also power fantasies of the children, of course, that they can fly, that are helpful. They have helpful companions as well, but still, this kind of comes to unfolds here. Maybe you want to say something about that? Well, yes, I said that it also comes on YouTube, and if I tell you about the ending now, that can't be, of course. But could you tell us something about the relation between the fantastical elements and the lyrical elements, maybe, in Mondmädchen, and then also on your stage play, and that maybe in the context of the refugee fates that you tell about? Well, the story continues that Mahtab finds out what there is, but of course I can't tell you where Athabasca is. She finds out, and that is the end of the book. That's going to be the final chapter of the book. This is the scene where they leave the deportation prison. Again they are escaping, again they are on their way with smugglers, and this is the end. So you will only find out that Athabasca only belongs to Mahtab. It only belongs to her. It's only her realm. And it was important to me that to show that I think I only survived the escape as a child by having this imagination, by having this fantasy, by inventing this for myself. I managed to survive. I always had that hope. And my parents were able to speak English. They could do a lot of things on their own. There was no need for an interpreter, and so in many instances, we didn't find out about things that we were facing many times, deportation, for example, and that helped us children not to lose hope. And this also is the message in the book, the hope. Thank you very much. And maybe to end with maybe a short quote, which again we do not have, unfortunately. So I'll leave you again with the original.
Stellen wir uns vor, es gäbe ein großes Flüchtlingsbuch. Darin verzeichnet alle Schicksale, alles Leid, alles Mögen, alle Hoffnung, alle Zuversicht. Stellen wir uns vor, es gäbe in diesem großen Flüchtlingsbuch eine Seite für jeden Flüchtling, eine Seite für jeden Vertriebenen, eine Seite für jeden, der seine Heimat verlassen und anderswo Schutz suchen musste. Eine Seite nur für jeden, für alle Sehnsucht, für alle Enttäuschung, für alle Ängste, für das Leben und für das Sterben und für alles dazwischen. Stellen wir uns vor, wie ein solches großes Buch aussehen. Die aktuelle Ausgabe hätte 60 Millionen Seiten. So viele Flüchtlinge gibt es derzeit auf der Welt, nur die allerwenigsten davon kommen nach Europa.
I wanted to quote that from Herbert Hagen. Thank you very much to all of you. We're looking forward to tomorrow.